What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the Side Guys, from the Tad the Side. And Tad, we're getting to tight ends now. In many past episodes, we've discussed about the fantasy tight end position being a little bit of a wasteland. But you know what? I actually think this year is different. I think this year is different, but you clearly feel the same.
It's not. And yeah, I'm so glad you used that word wasteland. And before anyone is like, "Oh, this is a prepared bit," no, I did not think he was going to say that, because it's not a wasteland. The Arizona desert is a wasteland. And before people in Phoenix are yelling at me, I don't mean like the cities in the desert. I mean like when you're out in the middle of nowhere, that's a wasteland. The TCU football outlook, that's a wasteland. This is Fallout level nuclear wasteland. And I'm not talking Fallout as in just normal nuclear fallout. I'm talking Fallout as in the video game and TV series wasteland of a bunch of freaks who are 6'6" and can beat me in a race by at least 5 seconds. That's not natural. That's a wasteland of freak athletes that can't do shit for your fantasy team, except for a few.
There are a few. You can
find you that few.
You can find your dog meats in the wasteland there for sure to help you on your fantasy roster for sure.
Way to bring up the dog. I'm so happy.
I love the dog. The dog is the best
part. He's the best boy.
He is the best for sure. And Tad, I don't know if you played the game before, but Fallout 3, there's a point where if unfortunately your dog dies,
they kill the dog.
If he dies, you can get a perk that's called puppies, if I remember correctly. So your dog will constantly reincarnate.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It should be like Red Dead, where you can't shoot the dog. That's ridiculous that they kill the dog, you heartless bastards.
Yeah. But the dog possibly can die. But yeah, if you then later on get that perk, then the dog will just constantly reincarnate. And then, it stays the same name too, so it's not like Dog Me 2, Dog Me 3.
Oh no,
like that. So it stays the same.
No,
name,
you're not
still
the same. You're not the same. You're not him. You're not him. Go away. But yes, no, I played like 10 minutes of Fallout 4. I got attacked by a mutated mole rat. I just called it.
Oh, yeah, mutated mole rats and death claws, and there's a lot of vicious creatures in the wasteland. You've never encountered? Oh man, yeah. Wait till you encounter death claw, then you're in for a treat for sure.
I'm scared.
But I think our sponsors for sure definitely want to share a treat with you as well, because we have a promo code with our pro sponsors here at Underdog Fantasy. They want to get you into the action here with some sports betting, some fantasy best ball action as well. I mean, Tad, as of recording, the Olympic ceremony, the opening ceremony is happening today, so it should be pretty exciting stuff in Paris for the Summer Olympics here. 2 weeks of fun there. I'm pretty sure we'll see some maybe Olympic-related bets on Underdog Fantasy, but with the NFL season coming right around the corner, the NCAA football season coming around the corner, you can bet on the postseason action for MLB because we're coming down the stretch for that. You got the WNBA season wrapping up, so you can bet on that as well. So a lot of things you can betting on. All you have to do is make anywhere between 2 and 8 different prop bet picks. The more potential picks you make, the more potential money you can win. And like I said, they want to get you some special perks there. So our perk here is our promo code DESAI, DESAI. Use that promo code, and on your initial deposit or your first deposit, only the first one, double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more up to $500. So, I mean, hypothetically, Tad, if you were to put in that max amount, $500 on the Underdog platform using our promo code DESAI, DESAI, you could double up that money dollar for dollar, and you could bet with up to $1,000 on their betting platform. So that's, use the website. You could use the apps, both the Android and Apple devices. Very intuitive, very easy to use. So, I mean, guys, get into the action. A lot of fun stuff you could betting on. You could be betting on to make some good money here. So use that with our good friends at Underdog Fantasy. That promo code, once again, is DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your deposit of $10 or more up to $500. So, Tad, we're talking about the wasteland here of the tight end position. In your eyes, I feel it's a little bit better this year compared to past years. It's not as, shallow as it was, especially when you get to the draft. Obviously, once you get into the actual season, there are some emerging names that you could possibly stream for a couple weeks, but I think we got a stronger crop this year. But looking at your rankings, there was, surprisingly, I saw this name and I was like, I sort of had to take a double take. I was like, really? You have this guy this low? And for those of you tuning in, we're not going to go into our full rankings. You see our ticker down coming right down below on our social media handles. That's where you'll see the full rankings for the tight end position as well as all the other positions that we're covering. But Tad, sometimes the reigning tight end won in fantasy football leagues, and a lot of people argue he is the greatest tight end in the NFL right now, possibly to ever play the game too. Travis Kelce, you have him ranked at number 3. And just a reminder for all you folks, Tad does his rankings based on where he thinks they will finish. So he thinks Travis Kelce will finish as a tight end number 3 this year in PPR leagues. So, yeah, explain yourself, good sir.
And with that, 1,000 Swifties just fell upon the show's head, and for that, I apologize, good buddy. And for all you Swifties who are listening, watching for the first time, thank you for the watches. And remember, my Twitter is at Emergicide23. You can hit up all your enraged opinions there. Not the other guy, that's him. Emergicide23, that's me with this take. Okay, so point being is look, I mean, number 3 tight end is still
Tad for Tad. So just showing people out there what it is.
Don't ruin the illusion. He's lying. He set that up. He's the producer. But no, look, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to have this massive drop off or that he's going to, be a bust or anything like that. He very well could. And look, that's the thing with tight end, which shows how just shallow this position is the difference between tight end 1 and 3 is minimal. Usually. But here's my concern. This goes hand in hand with my wide receiver hot take, which, by the way, if you did not watch my original hot take with that, you can go on the LAFB Network YouTube channel and check that out as well, or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. And my hot take there was, I think that Xavier Worthy is going to have a pretty solid year for a rookie. I think that Hollywood Brown's going to have, can we call it a comeback year? I guess come back here. He's gonna have a good year. We'll go with that. And then I think Rashee Rice, once he returns from his inevitable suspension, I think he's gonna do well. I think the Chiefs have a solid shot at having 3 receivers finish in the top 20 at the end of the year, which means someone else has got to suffer. Well, who the obvious suspect there is Travis Kelce, because he's been Mahomes' security blanket. But the whole thing is, when a kid grows up, guess what? You don't need a security blanket anymore. And Mahomes is already very grown up. But this Chiefs offense has finally grown up to be, actually have multiple receiving threats for once. And so that's the whole thing. It's nothing against Kelce. I'm not saying his career is over. I'm not doing any of this first take shit where it's like, oh, he's doing all this stuff with Taylor Swift. Is he focusing more on that than his career? No, obviously not. But I just think as a matter of circumstance, you're going to see, what's the one stat that I value above anything else when it comes to pass catcher?
Targets.
And I think you're just going to see a natural dip. You just get me, man. But I think you're going to see a natural dip in targets, and it just leads to, it's just the way the chain goes, a natural dip in production. So is he going to be a bust this year? No. But is he going to be the top tight end, unquestionably? I think there's a very real possibility that this is the beginning of the end, as Travis Kelce is the go-to fantasy tight end. I think we're going to see some younger guys kind of step up and really, kind of start taking over for him. So I don't think 3 is that high of a take, honestly, but yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he had a little bit of a quote unquote down year, because his down year is most people's career year.
You make a good point there. And honestly, doing the double take, I did a double take because I actually agreed with you. That is at number 3. Yeah. The surprising thing there is that I don't think he finishes at number 1 this year, too. I have a different tight end who's going to finish at number 1. But yeah, where do you think he finished last year, Tad?
2.
He finished 3rd.
3. Okay.
He finished 3rd last year. He played in only 15 games, so maybe part of that also is the age factor, dealing with some injuries and things along those lines. So yeah, he finished under 1,000 receiving yards as well, but he did go over 90 receptions. So, I mean, just he's definitely still involved in his offense, but just, yeah, I think there's other tight ends out there that I think could get more volume compared to him. They have age on their side, whatever it is. It's just like, yeah, still think Travis Kelce is easily a top 5 tight end, clearly a top 3 tight end in this year's leagues, but yeah, I just think of him finishing at number 1. Those chances are starting to diminish as the years go on. So I actually completely agree with you.
And here's the funny thing, though, is like, notice how the reasons for, our prediction and the reason for his production last year are completely flipped, or at least from my perspective, is because the reason, or I'm guessing one of the main reasons he flipped last year, or, that he kind of struggled again, quote unquote, struggled with 90 catches, is people forget, and this shows what winning a title will do. People forget those first 5 or 6 weeks, the Chiefs did not look good. Or at least the Chiefs' offense. I should correct that. The Chiefs' offense did not look good before Kansas City fans were like, the defense looked fantastic. They're what kept that team in contention until that offense got their shit together. And I think it's funny because that's why he finished 3rd last year. And this year, I think he'll finish 3rd because that offense is just now too good. And that there's, it's too many mouths to feed. It's just, it's wonderfully, that's called irony, kids.
Very well could be the case. I can see that happening, but just, yeah, I really don't think he finishes at number 1 this year, unfortunately. For all you Chiefs fans, and if you have him in dynasty leagues, then that's another reason to be a little bit shaky on him there.
Okay, so I have 2 topics to discuss with you with your rankings. The first one is because you stole my damn hot take, man. You stole the guy I was ready to talk about. I was like, this is going to be great. Can't wait to talk about him. And then you obviously got your rankings in first. So like, damn it. And very rarely do I audibly say that, but I audibly said it. I won't reveal the rankings where, because you have got to check out socials to find out our full tight end rankings, our top 12. However, you and I both have Dalton Kincaid pretty high up on our lists. Interesting note, while I was doing research for this episode, a lot of people have Dalton Kincaid as a bust.
Interesting. Okay.
So why are we right and they're wrong?
Biggest thing for me is that he's got carryover from last year. So that was his rookie year. He finished at number 11 in his rookie year. So, I mean, I think just the biggest thing is just exactly like you laid out, volume. Like, I mean, Stephon Diggs being gone from this Buffalo Bills offense, it's automatically going to funnel more towards Dalton Kincaid. And then, yeah, the hope is that Keon Coleman can sort of come out of the gate hot. But there's no guarantee. We talked about this in our last episode in the wide receiver episode. That's just like rookies can either come out hot and then they'll sort of start to plateau and like sort of even out, or they start slow and then maybe they'll heat up. But then there's also a lot of rookies that they just, for some reason, don't find it in their rookie year, whether that's the offense, whether it's their skill set, whatever it is. Sorry, buddy, but Quentin Johnson sort of experienced this last year. But it's just like, these are things that may happen, right? So it's just like, there's no guarantee that Keon Coleman is absolutely going to hit in his rookie year. So because of that, Josh Allen has to rely on a guy that he can trust. And in this case, I think that's going to be Keon Coleman. Because you also look at that receiver room, it's changed over quite a bit. They signed Curtis Samuel. I know Khalil Shakir is a carryover, but just like outside of that, lots of new faces. So it's like, I feel like when he needs a crucial conversion or he needs to go to the red zone for sure, Kincaid's number is going to get called quite a bit.
And that was the article I was reading was kind of pointing out, like, well, when they were in the red zone, even with Dawson Knox out, by the way, where's Dawson Knox? Because he got traded the other day.
See, I thought that, but I didn't find any credible sources. So I think Dawson Knox is still the Bills.
We got, was it Sports Sacks? Sports
Little bit. Yeah.
Damn it. Oh, well, happens to the best of us. But it's funny because they were saying, well, even with Dawson Knox out, Kincaid only saw 30% of opportunities in the red zone, and which are legitimate stats until you remember, like you said, fucking Stephon Diggs was there.
Yes.
It's like, no shit. I would let me weigh that option as Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid. Let me see where I decide on that coin flip.
Yeah.
So, like, yes, I understand those stats are a little concerning, but again, this is a completely, I won't say revamped offense, but changed offense, at least
changed
when it comes
is the better word, yeah,
to the playmaker outlook. And so, yeah, he's the only playmaker they have. And I think that is going to be a major, major focal point of the Bills. And especially because I know this is going to come up with the next point I bring up against your rankings is Dalton Kincaid is not your traditional tight end. He is a split out in the slot he's more of a receiver than a tight end. And so I think that is why I see his production as more valuable than than most quote unquote traditional tight ends. I think that's kind of why you're seeing George Kittle's value also drop. It's because George Kittle traditionally plays mostly, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, plays more snaps in the traditional tight end position than, kind of running it out wide, which I'd say is the right or wrong call.
He's an inline tight end. They very rarely split him out to a wide slot. Yeah.
But in terms of fantasy value, I think if you're going out wide, that opens up a lot of fantasy value for you. So I think Kincaid is going to be I'm trying to think of a comparison. He's going to be more of like a Dallas Clark than George Kittle, because those guys had two very different playing styles. George Kittle is kind of a short yardage, ground and pound him type of guy. Dallas Clark was, I'm going to stretch the field with these motherfuckers. God, I miss that, man.
Dallas Clark is going into the cold spring of water. I don't know. If
I was just about to say, put 44.
Good
44
that up. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's October 20th or whatever. I saw he was doing an interview on NFL Network. So yeah, that's exciting stuff.
Yes, Dallas Clark out of what college?
Iowa. That was a big conversation on that too, because he was talking about just like all the Iowa tight ends that have come after him and some of them before him or whatever. But yeah, Iowa's sort of tight end you right now.
All right. Here's my issue. So that's something we agreed on with your rankings.
Sure.
I believe at number 12 you have this player, and after I reveal his name, you can correct me if I'm wrong. At number 12, you have rookie, who we both very much liked, Brock Bowers, with the honestly, other than Michael Penix, probably the shock of the first round when the Raiders took him at also number 12, I believe.
13th, right?
God damn it. Yeah. The hell is wrong with you?
I think exactly like you laid out, where it's like, the fact that this was also that shock of like, I'm surprised that he went to the Raiders there at number 13 overall. A lot of people pegged him to be, fringe top 10 player drafted that year, this last draft, excuse me. But for him to land with the Raiders, especially when they just drafted Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame last year, it was just a little bit surprising. But I think this sort of sets a sort of tone as far as the Raiders are like, no, we need a immediate playmaker right now. And that's exactly what Brock Bowers is. So yes, we talked about this in our last episode with all the rumblings with Davante Adams and the comments that he made during the receiver docuseries, whatever you want to call it, on Netflix or whatever, about like, blaming Jimmy Garoppolo and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, that was just, tumultuous times. And we'll see if that will carry over into this season, depending on how things go with Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, whoever's playing quarterback, right? So with that sort of being a potential, like, ticking time bomb there, like, I think they needed another proven playmaker. And that's exactly what Brock Bowers is going to be. So you draft this guy to be an instant weapon for this passing offense, give Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, whoever the quarterback is, a guy to rely on consistently, because that's what he was at Georgia. Like, I mean, the guy was unstoppable at times in that Georgia offense. And so I think the Raiders saw that. They want to bring that to this offense. And I know they have Jacoby Myers. He's a very good piece. He's a very reception-heavy guy. But I think Bowers is that guy who will get the receptions and then get you the yards on top of that. He's big body. They can use him in the red zone too. So I think he's just going to be an immediate contributing factor. So that's why I could see him being drafted as a potential top 12 tight end.
Why are you so high on the Raiders? I don't understand this, because you had Zamir White as
Zamir White is top 10 running back. Top
10 running back. That's right. I will repeat, the hell is wrong with you, man? Yeah. Because I'll go back to a sentence you said just like 30 seconds ago was, well, whether or not it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, let's just time the fuck out right there. There's your whole problem. And look, I appreciate Gardner Minshew. He kept my Colts in the playoff running and didn't quite get there. But no, if those are your two quarterbacks, first off, even if it's Davante Adams, I'm like, okay, I'm immediately having issues with this. I think that's, it wouldn't shock me actually if you saw Davante Adams slip to the second round solely because of the, this Vegas offense just shows so little promise. But let me ask you this. So did you make this ranking assuming the Davante, or assuming that most people will assume, because again, you're doing like the preseason rankings, I'm doing like the postseason rankings. So are you assuming that most people will assume assumption? I tried to do a assumeception thing there, but it's hard to do that. Assumeception.
Yeah, you clearly messed it up. So move on.
Assumption and assumeception. That's very hard to do when you're talking fast. Anyway, are you assuming that most people are assuming that this Davante Adams, I'm not going to call it drama, because it's not even drama, it's just rumors at this point. Are you assuming those pan out, that he will not finish the season with the Raiders?
I think whether he stays with the Raiders or where he gets traded, I still think that Bowers will step up as his secondary option in this offense. I think regardless of what that is, because yeah, like I said, I like Jacoby Myers. That's a good piece, but they cut Hunter Renfrow, so he's a free agent right now. So it's like, I don't think they have another option in this offense. And so yeah, slowly maybe Bowers will start as like that number 3 option. They'll rely on Adams and Myers, but I think his skill set is just too vast that he will grow into becoming that secondary option. And yeah, eventually, if the rumblings become true and they do end up shipping Devontae Adams off, I think he'll slowly become that first option.
So we're kind of splitting hairs here, because I'm not that far off your take. If I was forced to do like top 18 tight ends, he'd make my list.
Yeah,
but
top 18 easy for sure.
Top 12, I don't see it, especially because, like you said, like Michael Mayer is there. I think Michael Mayer is going to be the better red zone target, because he plays in that tighter space where tight ends are traditionally targeted. I think it's going to be Michael Mayer is the Jason Witten to Brock Bowers, Dalton Schultz. And before Jason Witten left, I don't know if I'm getting my years right, but if before Jason Witten left, Dalton Schultz never got that good. Or my point being is, Dalton Schultz was utilized more as the out wide receiver, kind of like what we were talking about with Kincaid, where Jason Witten was so good because, God damn it, if you needed 2 yards, Jason Witten was going to get you those damn 2 yards. And so I think like it's just, and plus I with Devontae Adams, I think Jacoby Myers is honestly, you know what, I'll own this take. Jacoby Myers might be the most underrated receiver in the NFL.
He's one of them.
That dude is good.
Mm-hmm.
So like with both of them still there, and apparently the next superstar in Zamir White, it's just I'm not convinced that it's nothing against Brock Bowers. It's all about the team he's on.
That's fair. That's a fair sort of realistic take that you want to take there. But yeah, maybe I'm just a little bit more optimistic about the skill set that he has, that just like regardless of where he's playing, that he's just going to find a way to sort of make some plays for whatever offense that he's in.
That's fair.
In this case, the Raiders offense. So yeah, we'll see how it all pans out there. So once again, my rankings are based on where I think they'll get drafted or where they should get drafted. And yours are based on where they'll finish. Yes. And so I'm not saying necessarily that Brock Bowers is going to finish in the top 12, but I think he should be drafted as a top 12 tight end.
I think even that's a stretch, but you know who shouldn't be drafted in the top 12, top 15, top 20. Okay, top 20 is a stretch. Especially because I actually think, let me check my ranking. He actually finished number 11. So maybe he should be drafted top 12. But okay. I mean, it's just hard to leave this guy off, but just because he finishes at 11, and this is something I need to clarify before people are like, he's in your top 12. Can you call him a bust? He is outside of my top 10. Outside the top 10 with tight ends means like you had a couple good weeks, and the season on the whole, you weren't doing so hot. And this is a big name guy that I think, we kind of talk about the more casual fantasy players. You click on that little icon, like what would you get? I guess it's a newspaper, that little newspaper icon.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Next to these players' names, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's right, that happened. And you're either going to target him in late rounds, or he's going to be, and this is my anticipation, he's going to be one of the hottest names on the waiver wire that you and I are destined to talk about I'm trying to do the math in my head, come like early to mid-October, I think. And that's TJ Hawkinson. I think TJ Hawkinson is a close to guaranteed bust this year. And I'll say this. So he did blow, unfortunately. I'm not happy about this at all. Because he is a very fun player to watch. I was shocked when the Lions traded him. Those were some big ball moves by the Lions. And honestly, a trade that worked out for both teams. Lions got LaPorta. The Vikings got very good weapon in Hawkinson. Unfortunately, he tore both his ACL and his MCL in week 16 of last year. So the current projection, or at least the latest projection as of recording, is he will be available by week 5 at the earliest. Unless there's
it's still a very big question mark. Yes. Head coach Kevin O'Connell has said that just like he's unsure how many games that he's going to miss. But yeah, 5 games seems pretty safe right now.
Yeah, and they're not going to reveal shit. They're only going to be like, oh, maybe he's coming back. Like when he's like actually ready to come back. They're not going to do like week 1 shit where it's like, oh, you might be. No one thinks he's coming back week 1. Yeah. So, and this is why I said like early October, because I think what's going to end up happening with his ADP is go undrafted. Because everyone sees, oh, he's not ready for the start of the season. I'm not touching him. Fair strategy. Not saying anything against it. Maybe in some deeper leagues, he'll be a bench and stash. I could see that being a strategy. And so that's why I still qualify him under bust. Because he's a big name that a lot of people know. But you look at, Here's my biggest concern. I have multiple concerns, but here's my biggest one is by the time he gets back, I think JJ McCarthy, assuming he's the starter, which is probably a safe assumption, will have such an established relationship, such an established chemistry with both Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. I almost said JJ Jefferson. There are too many J's on this offense. We have what, 5 J's? We got JJ McCarthy, we got Jordan Addison, we got Justin Jefferson. This is not fair to a guy who has trouble speaking. I think they'll have such an established chemistry that it's going to be hard for Hawkinson to really be like, hey guys, I'm here. It's like the friend that gets there like an hour late to the party. And you're all just like, okay, all right, whatever. And it's like very hard for them to like, shut up. 15 minutes late to the podcast on a daily basis. It's not that. That's very comparable, actually. You don't need to agree so aggressively.
Yeah, I do.
I've earned that. Point being, but you know very well that it takes us a little while to get our groove going. I mean, honestly, look at our last episode. I told you after we were done, I was like, I didn't hit my groove until like minute 15. Well, the problem is minute 15 when you're coming in week 5 of an NFL season, it's like week 11, week 12 before you're like fully gelled into this offense. And, so I worry about that on top of the fact that I'm just assuming McCarthy's going to be good here. So he may not.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
And here's the interesting thing. So last year he did finish among the top 10 for tight ends, but he only finished with 5 touchdowns, which was tied for 8th among all tight ends. So most of this value is, and when it comes to fantasy, because I'm sure like if a football coach is like, no, I'll take him whenever. I'm sure you would. But as a fantasy manager, what you should be looking at is where does the value come from, which is receptions, targets, and yards. And if you're only playing for, let's assume best case scenario, 2/3 of the season, you're not going to get there. And if you're not scoring as much, all of a sudden wherever you finish, I think it was like 6, 7, 8, something that depends on the, type of league you're in, that goes outside of the top 10. So I think a lot of people, and I'm not so much worried about them drafting him. I'm worried about the guy who's having tight end struggles, sees, Hawkinson's back. You're at waiver number 1, and he's number 1 priority. I'm saying hold your horses because I don't think he's going to be the savior. Most people think he will be.
So he finished 4th last year in PPR league.
I knew he finished way higher than I thought he did.
He had a high amount of receptions. That was the biggest thing. He had 95 receptions and close to 1,000 yards. He had 960 receiving yards. But yeah, the 5 receiving touchdowns, I think that's what kept him at 4. Possibly could finish higher than that.
Like
but yeah,
I said,
I think
when you're only playing 11, 12, it's so hard to keep track now. They keep on expanding the schedule, but he's not going to repeat those numbers.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is just, with him missing time, it's really going to affect his overall production. Because, if he misses 4 games, 5 games, whatever it is, that's a good, that's a quarter of the season that you're going to be missing. So it's tough to sort of rebound from that amount of loss in potential fantasy production. That's just like, it's hard for him to climb back into that sort of top 10 level. So if you have a chance to sort of grab him as like, a bench and stash option, like if you have an IL spot, then that's like a perfect guy to grab. I was like, you draft him to your bench and then you put him on your IL. You have somebody else as your starting tight end, and then you get Hawkinson as a backup. That's a perfect scenario for you. So then it's like you need to use your starting tight end as a trade bait piece later, or you could trade TJ Hawkinson later once he's healthy. Like that's an option for you. But just like, unless you have that IL spot open, it's hard to draft TJ Hawkinson unless you want to waste a bench spot on him.
And again, I'm not even worried so much about the drafting because I think unless you're in a pretty deep league, I think most people will stay away from him. I'm worried about that week, 5. Again, keep in mind, week 5 is not confirmed. That's best case scenario. And so he may get delayed even further to 7 or 8 or 9. I'm more worried about like those waiver desperate people, especially at that time of the season where it's like, if I don't win the next 2, I know this because I've been in this position where if like I don't win the next 2 weeks, I am guaranteed to have to eat 24 pancakes. True story. Well, 12.
Let's say you didn't eat 24 pancakes.
I ate 12. I'm so sorry. Do you want to give it a shot?
I'm sorry. I don't come in last in my league.
Yeah, we'll see. Yet. So point being is I'm more worried about waiver wire hero syndrome than I'm worried about overdraft syndrome, especially because that is even in week 5, that is where the waiver wire starts drying up pretty quick. And if he gets pushed to week 8 or 9, the waiver wire is non-existent. You and I both know that doing waiver wire episodes past the halfway point it's torture. Because it's just like, we know these guys aren't going to do much, but we can just gotta find the guy who may have a good week or two after. And I don't know. I'm very worried about people freaking out about Hawkinson finally being available a couple weeks in this season.
I think because of the name alone, I think he'll get drafted. But yeah, he'll get drafted pretty
possible.
late because of the name alone, like I said. So I think somebody will, if they don't have an IL spot either, they'll just keep him on the bench and be like, once he's healthy, he's going to absolutely turn it up for me. So use him as like a late season find and actually sort of like push into the playoffs, that sort of thing. But if he does go undrafted, then it's like, yeah, you kind of want to be one of those people. We've brought this up so many times in our waiver episodes before. Pick him up 1 week earlier than you think you need to pick him up, because then, like that's saying, people are going to be clamoring to the waiver wire to get a tight end in case they lose one to an injury, or they see that's like the news is like, oh, TJ Hawkinson's been practicing, he's running routes with the number ones and all this stuff. It's like, then it's too late. You've already missed your chance to get TJ Hawkinson. So it's a scenario that if he goes undrafted, pick him up 1 week earlier than you think you need to pick him up. So
if you want him, I say stream. I think streaming tight ends is the best option if you have a tight end at that point that you don't want.
That's fair. That's fair. A guy that I'm staying away from because of just the situation that he's in, David Njoku of the Cleveland Browns. So
I agree. Unfortunately, I agree with this.
There's no doubt that Njoku was a monster tight end down the stretch for the Browns last season. From week 13 through week 18, Njoku was ranked as the 3rd best fantasy tight end in PPR leagues. He averaged 15.2 points per game, which is sensational from the tight end position. That is exactly what you want each and every week. And during that span, he tied for the best points per game in that span. So 15.2 was the best in that week 13 to week 18, that 5-week span. That was the best out of all tight ends there. He was tied for that. So these stats obviously lead to having some optimism as to why you probably want to draft him coming into this season. But here is the critical factor, and it's so surprising to say this, but Joe Flacco is no longer his quarterback. And it's strange for me to say that because that's the reason why Njoku found success last year. Because
wait, my calendar is wrong. It's not 2024. It's 2014.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly. Because in the 5 games that Njoku played with Deshaun Watson at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, Njoku averaged 5 targets, 4 receptions, and 35.2 receiving yards. Absolutely atrocious. Those are numbers you want from any player on your fantasy roster. In the 11 games that he played without Watson, so that includes some of the other guys, not just Joe Flacco, he averaged 8.8 targets, 5.5 receptions, and 64.1 receiving yards. So almost double the receiving yards of what he was getting with Deshaun Watson. Joe Flacco is now playing elsewhere. He's playing for your Indianapolis Colts, if I remember correctly, right?
For now, we'll see. Well, it's going to be an interesting preseason because I'm not so sure if he's going to make the roster.
So we'll exactly see what happens there. But just, I think just the huge question mark is still surrounding Deshaun Watson. It's like, will he regain that form? A lot of people had optimism that would happen last year, even with all the stuff that was happening around him and everything, and him coming late in the season. It's like, okay, he's with the team, he's learning, he should be able to bounce back. But what we saw last year was absolutely garbage. Like, it was so just bad. Not good at all. Bad. And maybe with the offseason, he'll be better. Maybe he'll start turn things around. Maybe we've talked about this. Kevin Stefanski has a, very hot seat. So it's like, maybe he's, going to dial things up to basically get the most out of Deshaun Watson here. But I'm shaking my head for those of you who are listening on our podcast because I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I think Deshaun Watson, unfortunately, is just, he's not the same guy that we're ever going to see from those Houston days when he was with the Texans, absolutely blowing things up for them. This is just a different guy that we have here. I think just too much time away from the field and too much time doing, for lack of a better word, other things that maybe are not so good there. So I just, unfortunately, because of that, it's such a detriment to this passing offense and a very big detriment to David Njoku. So I'm staying away from him for sure in all fantasy draft leagues. Like, if I was in your shoes in an auction league, I would nominate Njoku because I do not want him on my roster. Somebody else take him.
I see, but that's the thing. I think he's so, not even him, because I'll get to this, but I think that Browns offense, other than Chubb, has gotten so toxic that that's a bad nomination, in my opinion, because you nominate him, and that's the guy that's like, somebody please bid. Somebody please bid. Do not. It's the nomination that
you know what? I'll
backfires
take it if
on
you
you.
nominate him for $1. That's like, okay, fine. I'll take it for $1. But it's
I'm
like,
not.
yeah, well, I'm just saying that's just like, I would be in that shoes where it's like, I would not hate him because I do not want him on my roster as opposed to bidding on him for sure.
Njoku's like your best friend who, you get along with great. You really want to see succeed. And then he starts dating a really sucky chick or guy if they're into that. And they just kind of suck while they're with that person. And you're just chilling, just break up with them so you can be you again. Just please do it. Please do it. Please do it. Please do it. And when it finally happens, you're like, oh no, yes. And you're like, yes, finally, because like, this is none of this. Notice how we are not criticizing Njoku at all.
No,
He's one of
he
my
has a
favorite
skill
tight
set.
ends. He is so much fun to watch when he goes off. That dude is a physical freak. Honest to God, I think he could, and like he has the potential to be the third best tight end in the NFL.
Oh yeah, he easily does.
How about this we're not at the hot take section yet, but hot take, I will almost rather have Njoku than Mark Andrews.
Honestly, with his injury history, I would prefer David Njoku too. If we're talking about just building a team and needing a tight end, yeah, I would go with Njoku as well.
So it's just the whole thing of like, Njoku's so good. He's that friend you love to hang out with. But just break up with the Browns already, man. They're not good for you. They drunk text you, you break up, and they drunk text you at midnight, and you drunkenly go over. Like, stop going over with Stefanski, man. And look, unfortunately, it's just not going to be a very happy ending for Deshaun Watson or the Cleveland.
Did you say bad ending for Deshaun Watson? Was that intentional? I don't think it was.
Happy ending. I did.
Yeah, it's not going to be a happy ending.
No,
yeah,
that was,
wow. That was good. That
was intentional. I try to keep a straight face. I'm just gonna do it.
Man.
Oh man. Anyway, yeah. Unfortunately, it's just because it's. I hate using cliches like this, but it's a roller coaster with him, right? It's Njoku's great. Oh, he's bad. Njoku's great. Oh, he's bad. And it's just like,
I don't think he's ever going to be great, though. I just unfortunately think that just his offense is just going to be such a detriment to him.
No, he's going to have like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 weeks where he's going to go off for like 15 points, and we're going to be like, Njoku's back, and no. And yeah, God, it sucks. And the thing is, I think you and I both have him in the top 12 still. That shows how good he is because even if he's not going to be great, he's still going to produce enough to finish as at least a top 10 tight end, at least in my opinion.
Interesting. Where did Njoku go to college?
The U,
Miami Hurricanes, that is for sure. So, obviously, we're talking about David Njoku as being a tight end bust here, Tab, but let's sort of talk about some sleepers. So, who's some guys that, you can sort of find some diamonds in the rough here as far as some tight end sleepers? Who you got for me?
This is a guy who I had to look up how to spell his name every time. But I'm actually...
every player?
It's close to it. Smith, Mimth.
Smith Jones. I mean, yeah, there's so many.
Eric
All. I'm pretty sure you don't know how to spell all either.
All?
Eric All.
A-L-L-E?
No.
Oh!
No E. It's literally just A-L-L.
Damn it!
Oh my gosh.
I got 2 in my own head.
Dude, that's one of your 10,000 schools that you love.
Well, that's why I didn't know it. Damn it. I got 2 in my own
geez.
head. I thought that was a trick question. Mooney? Money?
Oh, God.
Anyways, no, it's Pat Freiermuth.
Okay, this one's pretty tricky for a lot of people, for sure.
All right, so we're kind of running against it with time. But anyway, you try to spell it without looking. If I see any typing, I'm calling bullshit.
F-R.
Hold on, because I need to look.
Yeah, you got to double check it, because there's no way you know it by heart.
No. All right, I'm ready.
F-R-I-E. It's E-I, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is F-R-E-I, and this is what always throws me off. E-R-M-U-T-H. It's always that second E that gets me. But I-E-I, very common mistake. Don't worry, buddy. But I'm actually, so let me clarify when I say that I think he's a sleeper does not mean I think he's going to have like a fantastic year and like he is going to be the guy that wins you your league. I just think that he's going to bounce back from what is unequivocally a terrible season, filled with injuries. that he's going to be a very good guy that if he goes undrafted should be one of your top waiver pickups. If you find out, if your tight end that you did draft gets hurt, or if you find out that, as many do, this tight end I thought was going to be good is not. What I call Gerald Everett syndrome. That was an uncalled shot, but I will own it. And here there are a couple reasons why. One, Matt Canada is gone, so maybe this offense will look competent for the first time in years. Two, better quarterback. I'm still a believer in Kenny Pickett. I'm not calling on Kenny Pickett yet, but Russell Wilson, and just don't give me that look. He could still be good. I'm not giving up yet.
He's gone.
I'm not giving up on Kyle Trask either. I hold on to these guys for way too long.
Gone.
Kyle Trask is the first year of our podcast, wasn't it?
I think so.
We've been doing this for way too long. Yeah, so Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, both better quarterbacks than Kenny Pickett for now. And also another big thing that a lot of people are forgetting that we discussed in our last episode, Deontay Johnson's gone. So the natural need to fill out those targets that are missing from him is there. So I think that you're going to see a lot of targets from this Arthur Smith offense. And I know a lot of people are saying is like, oh dear God, did you just say Arthur Smith, the guy that like single-handedly ruined Kyle Pitt's career? Yes, and I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. But here's an interesting stat I found while I was doing research for this: is in Arthur Smith's Falcons offense last year, they targeted the tight end 34% of the time. That was almost 5% more than second place in the league. So they were like far and above first. So that just, goes to show why I don't know why Arthur Smith did, put Kyle Pitts at tight end then, but say whatever. That's a whole other conversation. But point being is, I think Arthur Smith is going to target the tight end, Freiermuth, a lot. And on top of that, you look at not last season, because like we said, last season was pretty bad, but you look at the 2 seasons before that, Freiermuth averaged almost 61 targets a game and he definitely finished in the top 10, I think. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes right now. Order. He was, all right, so he finished in the top 15 in 2022 and 2021. So I think he finished like 8th in 22, if I'm correct. 7th. And okay, 7th. And then 13th in 21.
21, he finished 13th, yeah.
There we go. So yeah, exactly. So he has the top 15 tight end talents. It's just that offense last year did not cater to those talents at all. I think this is like his little mini comeback. I'm not saying he's back, baby, but I'm just saying, he's just look out for him.
He missed 5 games last year as well, so that sort of hurt.
It was injury riddled. Yep.
That's why he finished as 29th last year for sure. But I think the big thing that just sort of concerns me with Freiermuth's sort of resurgence is just that, like you said, Arthur Smith targets the tight end, but it ended up going more to Jonnu Smith as opposed to Kyle Pitts. So it's like,
what is this a situation doing?
Where? So that's why it just like worries me, because the Steelers drafted Darnell Washington, who were like, he's a physical freak. He can eventually grow into becoming a very dangerous tight end at the next level, but he still got a lot of growing pains. And one of the things that I remember with watching Darnell Washington tape was that because he was such a big dude at the college level, he was able to get by with just using his body weight to block. But now at the next level, it's like he needs to learn the technique. So if he hasn't developed his technique to be a better blocker, whereas Pratt Freiermuth is a better blocker, Washington will be the guy running up more routes, very similar to like a Jonnu Smith Kyle Pitts situation. So that's sort of what I'm seeing here. But yeah, maybe in this offseason, Washington has worked on his blocking technique, so he'll be kept in more as a blocker. Freiermuth will go more running routes there. But I just sort of see it the other way, where it's like, very similar to what we saw in Atlanta, where we thought Kyle Pitts would benefit, but instead it was the other tight end, and they kept Kyle Pitts to block in. This could be a very similar situation we see here in Pittsburgh as well.
Here's the only reason I disagree with that is because 2 years now, I've seen rumors that Pittsburgh is seriously considering moving Darnell Washington to be their backup tackle.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I'm telling you, look it up. There have been, and again, like obviously none of the coaches have confirmed that, but there have been rumors from multiple Pittsburgh reporter. I almost said receivers. How great would that be if George Pickens was just like, here's what they're doing. But no, there have been multiple reports from Pittsburgh, beat reporters that no, they like solely drive. Basically, their whole thing was if you can't learn how to route, it's almost the opposite of your prediction. Like if you can't learn how to route run, fuck it, we're just gonna put him at tackle because he's big enough, and eventually he'll figure it out. Which to me isn't the greatest strategy. Offensive tackle is a very very difficult position to learn.
It is.
Despite what did I say that offense? I said something during the draft live stream where Al got very upset with me. I think I said guard wasn't very hard, and Al was ready. I think I said guard wasn't hard, and Al was ready to kill me.
Yeah,
I meant before anyone yells at me again. I meant guard in that system. In that system, it's not hard. It's called. Oh, I don't know what it's called. I'm blanking on it. Not diatribe. Whatever. Point being is, I think they're actually looking at Darnell Washington, whether he's good at it or not, as more of a blocker. I'm not scared of him as a pass catching threat to Freiermuth at all.
All right. We'll see how it all pans out. But yeah, don't be surprised if you got some, fantasy managers of Pat Freiermuth that end up getting just as frustrated as the Kyle Pitts managers last year because he's being held into block. So just throwing it out there. So
details. Was that the word I was looking for? Details. I'm gonna get it by the end of this episode. Anyway, who's your sleeper?
Maybe. My sleeper is actually Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so this is actually, a very good sleeper here because Tad, quick pop quiz for you. And I sort of gave you one of the answers, but there were only 4 players last season that had over 110 receptions last season. Can you name the other 3? Because one of them is obviously Evan Ingram.
Okay. So I gotta guess 3.
Yes.
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, because he had a crazy good year.
Yes, Tyreek Hill is one of them. Good job.
Oh man, but did he get hurt? I think he might got hurt. Yeah, he did get hurt because that story just came out where St. Brown completely tore up his shoulder or whatever and played through it. That man's a monster. So I'm not gonna say St. Brown.
Well, I'll stop you there because it is St. Brown.
Oh, come on!
110 receptions. Well, let's see if you get the last guy. The last guy should be an easy one.
Don't say that because then you make me look like an idiot.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm torn between 2 players because obviously one of them I like a lot because Michael Pittman racked those receptions up.
He did.
Did Puka get there? I want to say Puka. No, I'm gonna go Pittman.
You're close with Pittman. Pittman fell 1 reception short. He had 109. He had 109 receptions. But
God damn it, Minshew.
The answer I was looking for was CeeDee Lamb, the wide receiver 1 from last year. So I thought you'd go in that direction.
Yeah,
so
no, that is an easy one. That's bad.
CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Evan Ingram. So what do those other 3 players have in common, Tad? They're all receivers. So tight end was the only one. Evan Ingram was the only tight end last year that had over 110 receptions. So that says something because we talked about this with Calvin Ridley leaving to join the rival Tennessee Titans. This opens up that offense. I know they signed Gabe Davis. They drafted Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, but just they still have to get acclimated because, Ted, I've talked about it so much, just that Gabe Davis never realized his potential at Buffalo. So hopefully a change of scenery will be better for him, but there's no guarantee.
To be fair, we said the same things about Christian Kirk when he signed with Jacksonville. He never got there with Arizona. So the possibility is still there, but the insurance policy that is, let me just, I'll let you get back to your, spiel. I love this pick. This is a great pick. The only reason this wasn't my pick is you got there first.
That is fair. So you brought up Christian Kirk. I think he should return and be that primary option. But outside of that, I think they're going to be looking for that secondary option because Calvin Ridley's no longer there. Maybe it'll be Gabe Davis. Maybe it'll be Brian Thomas Jr. But I think in my eyes, because Evan Ingram has just been such a dominant force at the tight end position for the Jaguars specifically, I think he is going to be that secondary option for them. So the big thing, though, is that I should see an uptick in touchdown numbers this year because he only had 4 touchdowns last season. So I think we should see hopefully more touchdowns, which will raise his stock quite a bit here. But here's the biggest thing as to why I love Evan Ingram this year, Tad. Doug Peterson has been a head coach in the NFL since 2016. Every single season that he has been a head coach, Tad, he has had a top 10 fantasy tight end. Every single season.
Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert.
Not Goddard. Zach Ertz, every single season he was there in Philadelphia.
Never got in the top 10? Oh, I guess that was after Pearson got canned, huh?
Yeah. So it was Zach Ertz every single season that he was in Philadelphia. And then ever since he came to Jacksonville, it has been Evan Ingram. But here's the kicker on all of that. Of those 7 seasons that he's been a head coach, 5 of them were not just top 10 finishes, they were top 5 finishes. So
Wow.
Evan Ingram is a guy that I think a lot of people are going to overlook because, like, we saw what Trevor Lawrence did in offense. It didn't look like they were running on all cylinders. A lot of people had optimism based on what we saw in that first year with Doug Peterson. We thought it'd grow up a little bit more that second year, but just we didn't see it. But I think regardless, Evan Ingram is a guy that we could trust on fantasy rosters, and he may go overlooked because you may see names that, I said this in last year's podcast. That's like, I love George Kittle, and he's one of those guys that he will finish probably as a top 5 tight end, but he's not going to be a consistent piece for you. Like, he'll have 1 week where he's just going to be kept in a block. Christian McCaffrey's going to have a fantastic day at the office, but then there's going to be another week. Well, for some reason, George Kittle is just going to find an opening, and he's going to have like a 65-yard touchdown. And then on top of that, he'll throw on like another 8 receptions, but it'll be very like week to week, very just inconsistent. Whereas Evan Ingram, I think in that offense, he is a pass catcher first and then a blocking tight end second. If that blocking tight end, like, even I use that on loose terms, like, he's not really a blocking tight end. But because of that, it's like you'll see George Kittle go higher. You'll see, like, guy that we talked about earlier, Travis Kelce will obviously go higher. Mark Andrews will probably go higher. But because of all those higher name tight ends, higher price tight ends will go ahead of that, you may find the diamond in the rough here in Evan Ingram, who may benefit the most for your fantasy roster, become a very productive part of your fantasy roster. So Evan Ingram, I think, could be a lock definitely for the top 10, maybe even higher than that. We'll see.
And that will do it on this week's episode of the Sci Guys Football Forum, where we stop laughing. And you know what? As always, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And please stay safe. Okay, now that everyone in our league is done watching, and hopefully everyone in my league is done watching, Evan Ingram is definitely my top target at tight end. I hate spending
top
big.
target, okay.
Top target, because I always try to find that like mid-level guy that should not be mid-level. And for all the reasons you just laid out, he is mid-level. And I just wanted to add one more thing onto, you kind of already mentioned him, but Brian Thomas at LSU, I liked him a lot coming in the draft process. I did. But he was also all the first, and this is Xavier Worthy included, just because his stretch of the field ability has some translation. He was the least ready. He was the least NFL ready receiver to go in the first round. So I don't think Brian Thomas is going to make much of an impact until I want to say very late in the season. Makes it sound like, week 14, but at least until like week 10 is when he's really going to start hitting stride. I think he'll get there. But I think it's going to take a while. So they're going to depend on Evan Ingram really, really hard. And it's, again, for all the reasons you laid out, he's a good pick. He's just, and the thing I love the most about tight ends, good tight ends, is consistency. I think that's where George Kittle is losing a lot of, support in the fantasy world. I think that's where, especially Mark Andrews is losing a lot of support in the fantasy world, is that consistency that they used to have is slowly depleting. Well, Evan Ingram's is either staying the same or going up. Like, if he was with any other team, I'd love this guy.
Well, I wouldn't say any other team because he was with the Giants and I hated him on the Giants.
No, see, I didn't mind. I didn't say you. I said me. I didn't mind him.
That's fair. That's fair.
Now, my friend who's a Giants fan did not like him because he didn't do shit with it. This is what the Giants, the Giants are just sitting there and be like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Tad. So let's close this episode the way we usually do. Let's get to our bold takes for the position here at tight end specifically. So what is your bold take for the tight ends this year?
Dude, so you want to hear something awesome that happened to me today?
I guess.
Okay, there's the support I always love. I got Crystal Ball.
Okay.
Yeah, so I looked into it. That shit works. It's actually pretty cool. So in the Crystal Ball, here's what I saw. Is Atlanta Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts finishing as the 12th best tight end at the end of this season. Now,
12th best, okay.
12th best. I know, it sounds pretty good, right? It's not. It's really, really not. And here's why. Is I think the hype with, this new look Falcons offense with Kirk Cousins, the new coach, the new offensive coordinator, and Zach Robinson. I think a lot of people are like, all right, it's Kyle Pitts here. Would I've heard that before last year?
Yeah. And the year before.
And the year before. And the year before. Like, we've been hearing this guy. And to be fair, his rookie year was really good.
Yes, that was his 1 year.
It was good. I'm not going to take anything away from that rookie year, but I've been hearing Kyle Pitts is the man for quite a while now. He is, taking quite a while to prove he can repeat his rookie year. I don't think he does it this season. I think it's just history repeating itself until we've learned our lesson.
Kyle Pitts, Eric Ebron 2.0. Is he falling into that territory right
For now, yes. But stay with me though, because that's an
Okay,
interesting name
right.
to bring up. I'm very actually wow, that was a very good comparison for what I'm about to do. Or sorry, for what I'm the crystal ball told me.
You just broke your whole disguise.
It's a good joke. I'm gonna keep it
Stupid
going.
crystal ball.
I'm gonna keep it going. Snow White, was that the one with the crystal ball? Which one had the crystal ball?
What are you talking about?
Snow White, Cinderella, one of the princesses had a crystal
Snow
ball.
White.
Okay.
She had a magic mirror though.
Yeah, whatever, same difference. They're both glass. Mostly. Anyway, so here's what I think is going to happen is that Kyle Pitts is going to have not a bad season, but definitely not the one that, again, people are going. I'm telling you what's going to happen is because normally people avoid this mistake with big names after 2 or 3 bad seasons where it's like, I know you're a big name, but you haven't done shit, so stay away. But the Falcons have gone over such a revamp that I think they're going to fall in that damn bear trap. The crystal ball is going to fall, is predicting they're going to fall in that damn bear trap all over again. Where you're going to be like,
you're falling into your own damn bear trap with this stupid.
I always fall in my own damn bear trap.
Skit that you're trying to do. Oh, my Lord.
And I think that they're going to think like this is his revamp here. It's not going to be. And it's interesting. So Zach Robinson is coming over from the Los Angeles Rams, right? So I decided to do the research. And by the way, this was very not fun research. God, I hate fancy tight ends so much.
Wait a second. I thought it was this crystal ball doing it for you.
Well, the crystal ball, I had to look up if the crystal ball was correct. And so I'm now backing up the crystal ball. It's not like the crystal ball is going to spit stats. I mean, it's not Pro Football Reference. So anyway.
Yeah, with your salary, you can't get that type of crystal
ball. Cannot. Let me tell you. That's why I had to fight on the sidewalk while I was walking home. 15 miles from Mesquite. Anyway, so the Rams' main starting tight end over the past couple of years has been
Tyler Higbee.
Thank you. So Tyler Higbee last year finished as the 24th best tight end. And I'm going out with half PPR stats here. So 24th in 2023. In 2022, give credit where it's due. I could have skipped this year, but he did finish in the top 10 at 9th. So that was a very good year for him. But you got to remember, they did not have Puka Nacua that year.
They also didn't have Cooper Kupp that year. I think that's the year he got hurt.
I was trying to remember that. And I didn't have enough time to look that up. So, okay, there you go. In 2021, 14th, respectable. Not great, not good. And then 2020, 18th. So, look, I mean, for Tyler Higbee, those are fine. Those are pretty solid numbers, actually. Nothing against Tyler Higbee. All I'm saying is if I switch out the Higbee in that list with Pitts, all of a sudden the narrative on that changes a whole lot. Because it's, in terms of where he was drafted, both in real life in the top 5 and where he's drafted likely in all those seasons in fantasy football. I think he's going to finish in that range, in the 15 to 25 range, and it's going to be a real problem. So at the end of a disappointing, and here's where the crystal ball, this is what they showed me. Okay, it's beautiful. Don't shake your hands because this was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. So at the end of a disappointing season, first off, fantasy owner or managers are very, very upset with him because they drafted him to be like the breakaway number 1 tight end, which he will not be. So my bold prediction is, the crystal ball's bold prediction is that he will be a bust. Kyle Pitts must be avoided. Here's where it gets really crazy, or got really crazy. Will get really crazy. This
is over the better, seriously.
Kyle Pitts will get very, very frustrated with the Atlanta Falcons. We got Kirk Cousins. We have Michael Penix. Why am I keep doing so badly? And then he will ask for a contract extension because it's always safe to, stay with the team. But the Falcons, because he had a disappointing year and he's going in the last year of his rookie contract, will lowball him. Frustrated and upset, Kyle Pitts will demand a trade. And because he has yet to produce more than 1 season for the Falcons, they will grant him that trade. And you know what I saw? Kyle Pitts in the wonderful blue and white. Welcome to Indianapolis, Kyle Pitts. Also, I know people are going to yell at me saying Zach Robinson's also trying him in the slot, but I don't care because they signed so many goddamn weapons. I don't trust that he will get enough target share to make up for him being a tight end.
This reference for only one of our listeners here, but during that entire bit, Tad was Sideshow Bob, and that bit was a field of rakes. That's exactly what it was.
I actually get that one. I've actually
got that one.
Yeah, I got that one. I actually know that one
before. Okay, nice. Okay, so maybe a couple people might know that one, but yeah, dear Lord, I'm so thankful it's over I'm gonna get to my
Crystal
fantasy
ball
hot
never
take.
lies, man.
I'm gonna get to my hot take here, and this is actually one of your hot takes as well, but unfortunately I took it as well.
Yeah, you
But
did.
Dalton Kincaid, the guy that we brought up earlier this episode, but I'm just sort of gonna reinforce this one. Dalton Kincaid is going to finish as your number one tight end in PPR leagues this year.
Whoa!
Yeah, last year was his rookie season, and with that, he finished 0.3 points away from finishing as a top 10 tight end in just his rookie year in PPR league. So from week 7 onwards, Kincaid actually finished as the 9th best fantasy tight end in PPR leagues. He had the 8th most targets among tight ends, the 7th most receptions, the 9th most receiving yards among all tight ends in fantasy during that span. He also averaged 8.5 fantasy points per game, which is ranked for 10th best at the position during that span as well. So clearly they were like, I brought this up so many times before, but rookie tight ends take time to adjust. There's very few outliers like your Sam LaPortas out there that could totally kill it in their rookie year. So this is exactly what it shows, where it's like it took him a handful of weeks, and then by week 7 onwards, he became a regular part of that offense, became a mainstay, became a go-to option for Josh Allen. So all the things that we brought up before, Stephon Diggs is gone. We got a lot of new faces in that receiver room. That's going to be hard to really build up some chemistry there. So I think with the carryover from Kincaid going from his rookie year into this year, in his second year with Josh Allen, I really think he is going to become a primary option for Josh Allen until we see some emergence from that receiver with Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel and some of those guys. So it's like I very much could see Kincaid seeing a high volume in this offense for sure and really benefit from that. And like we talked about, I think Travis Kelce may not see as many targets because he's in a new look offense too. Maybe they're going to air it out a little bit more with lots of those receivers. So I think in this case, Kincaid could be one of those guys that because of that high volume, and it will lead to good production as well. So it's like not just the volume, but he will be able to capitalize on that volume as well. He is going to finish as your number one tight end this year because, it's hard for me to really trust a lot of those other options just yet, especially when you're drafting. But definitely, this is one guy that could for sure put a lock in. That's like he's a guy that's going to be Josh Allen's main weapon.
So number one sophomore tight end.
Number one sophomore tight end, I guess, but he's the number one tight end overall. Number one tight end overall.
You madman.
I
No, I do like it, and here's the other big thing is again with Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews could be that guy. He's the perfect blend of George Kittle and Travis Kelce. That man cannot stay healthy. My faith in and it's ironic because this is my also big concern with Lamar Jackson is my faith in either one. My belief in them is very high as players. My faith in them and staying healthy for a full season and truly not costing my team at a critical week is very low. And I think that's the big thing because otherwise I would have honestly had Mark Andrews as my number one. But I agree. I think if you don't think it's going to be Travis Kelce, if you don't think it's going to be Mark Andrews, it's tough to come up with another name, even though I did. But you got to check out the rankings.
That's exactly what it is. So, I mean, guys, that was a fun episode discussing all tight ends when it comes to fantasy football. But like Tad talked about, go check out all of our social media handles. You see the ticker right down below. You got us on Twitter. You got me at UndeSide23, Tad at 10Side94, got show handle at The Aside Guys, and of course on Instagram at The Aside Guys as well. So you'll see the full rankings for our tight ends there. You'll see the full rankings for our wide receivers, running backs, and quarterbacks, which we've already done, and our future rankings where we'll get to kickers and defenses as well. So make sure you tune in to all our social media handles for those graphics with all the rankings there to give you a good idea as far as how you should play your draft strategy. Guys, make sure you subscribe or listen to your podcast because, it's great information that we're giving out to you guys. We want to make sure that you're winning championships this year, winning all of your fantasy leagues. So please listen to our podcast. Please watch us on YouTube as well, whichever option that you have, either watching us or listening to us. And I think first and foremost, please give support to our parent network at LAFB Network because they're giving you a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers at the professional level and the Bruins and the Trojans when it comes to the college level. Lots of great content with all 4 LA-based football teams there, guys. So, if you're already listening to the podcast, if you're already watching our videos, if you're supporting the podcast in any interacting with us on social media, just anything and everything that you're doing to support the podcast, we really can't thank you enough.
And we are just days away from August 1st, which is crazy. I'm almost 30. I really don't like that. But anyways, the nice part of August is fantasy drafts are here. So as your fantasy draft gets closer and you have more pressing needs, look, we try to cover as many fantasy topics, as many fantasy questions as we can. We can't get to them all because that is physically impossible. If anyone can, I am worried about their health. So if you have a more specific kind of directed, very specific situation that you want our help on, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up, where else, Mer?
Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. I mean, just whatever
Reddit.
you got.
Thank you. I knew I was forgetting one. The LAFB Reddit page. Hit us up on any of those. We will gladly give you our help. I love it. Look, the more specifics you can give me, the better advice both Amur and myself can give you. Okay, if you're just like, which receiver should I draft? Well, okay, that's a very broad question. But if you're like a 12-man league, half PPR, stake draft, I'm at 6. Who do I target? Well, okay,
yes,
then
we'll give you good ideas then.
We got a good list. So be sure, do not be shy. We're not going to judge you. As we said earlier in the episode, I eat 12 pancakes one year. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. That actually happened. So trust me, I get like, oh no, I'm last in my league. I don't want to repeat that, but I also don't want to ask anyone for help. DM us. No one will tell you. We'll say we helped you on the show, but not by name. I promise. So, we're here to help you guys, especially because we're getting crunch time. It's August. It's going to be here before you know it. I just saw an ad for the Hall of Fame game. Like, it's coming quickly. So be sure to keep listening. Be sure to keep watching. Thank you so much for doing both. And as always, everyone, please stay safe.